What's going on, everybody? This Afro think tank. Man explains to white people that the world has never been, never was, and never will be white. And I think they, they meaning white people, have been under the impression that they have ever been a large population of humanity, right? Like, they be throwing around this number now that I hear when, they talk about the Great Replacement and all that stuff, or their birth rate, whatever. They keep talking about just 30% of, they used to be 30% of mankind, and now they're down to like 7 to 8%, right? And for the life of me, I can't remember when they were ever 30% of anything, right? They've never been 30% of the world, right? They had this distorted view of the planet and the size of it and the size of countries and, right, the population centers of countries. Like, to be honest, we human beings, despite you think a billion is a lot, right? There's a war going on between two ant colonies that's bigger than anything we ever more than us, right? There's two ant colonies right now fighting a global centuries-old battle of attrition right now. It's the longest war between two multicellular organisms on the planet, right? So it's always been African and Asian people, right? They always distort our numbers, right? Because they always lie. Like, do you really think, listen, put this together. 13% of America's population, right? 13% of America's population, right? America is 5% of the world's population, okay? So you're saying that 13% of a 5%, so we're 13%, that we're a piece of that, 5% of the planet, which is America, right? And look at our global influence in our GDP. We as African Americans have more money, more spending and buying power than most countries, most nations, right? Both Asia and Europe and Africa, right? Mostly as one ethnic group, African Americans, right? So either there's a lot of us and we're all just mid, and you just round up all the middle class African Americans, we'll still say there's a hell of a lot of African Americans who are in the middle class, right? Or we have that many sports stars, because really comparatively, you put all the rich millionaire, billionaire basketball players and football players and all that pales in comparison of the average upper class rich white folks whose families been freaking benefiting from slavery and the dispossession of other nations and their materials and peoples for damn near centuries, right? Their upper class is massive, right? So comparatively, so with all this being said, how is it that we either is a lot of us and they're lying about the census, because with black folks we don't even fill that shit out, right? So it can't even be accurate. Either there's a lot more of us, right? But there's either a lot more of us, or we're just that goddamn successful, or we're somewhere in between, or it's both, right? But you guys have never been a massive population, and that's been the big lie, right? You guys have been stuck in your little white enclaves in the middle of America, right? And the only reason you're there is because your forefathers was given the land because the corporation wanted you guys to grow shit for them and get in the coal mines and kill yourselves and get all kinds of lung cancer so they can get rich, right? So you guys were just slaves out there, but then when they packed up and rolled out, they left you guys there in them cities that don't produce anything anymore. And now you guys are being subsidized by the states we black folks live in, the big states, where the money is spent, where the corporations are, where the population centers are. Black folks are doing fine. Plus, we're being infused with new genetic admixture from our brothers and sisters around the world. So we're like good. And you guys in America, you white Europeans, you guys are very inbred here. Y'all like some of the most inbred. And I'm not even like trying to take shots. You guys are legitimately, if you look this shit up, you guys are one of the most inbred groups of people on the planet outside of Pakistanis, because they marry their cousins and shit, right? So you and Pakistanis are real goddamn close when it comes to this inbred, and I know that's causing a whole lot of psychological problems, right? But nowhere in human history have you guys ever grown big enough to be 30% of any population. You guys almost offed yourself like 3 times already due to poor hygiene practices, right? And then you guys kill each other constantly. You're doing it right now. When you're not killing everybody else, you're killing each other. This is your greatest pastime. You've never had a society peaceful enough to ever grow in a large population of people ever. And you guys are demonstrating right now why you guys have never been in a place of peace and rest to do it. Like the best y'all ever had was during the transatlantic slave trade, when a few of you peasants from Europe was able to come over here and be, middle class freaking managers and got to beat on some slaves, while the rich people still was shafting you guys. Like the best y'all ever had when they gave y'all all that land from the Homestead Act, and you, for once, you Europeans, some of you peasants finally own land, but they're taking that shit back right now anyway. Like, so, I mean, you guys have never been a large population, and that's why y'all got to redistrict. That's why y'all got to do all this crazy shit, because everywhere we go, see, black people are communal. We don't just distrust our brothers and sisters. We inherently want to trust them. That's why you see us arguing all the time on the internet about what we should do, because we're communal. That's communal, even though it looks chaotic to you. But you guys don't do that shit. Y'all sweep everything under the rug. Y'all don't trust each other. Y'all don't have a communal mindset. So y'all not building when y'all move together. Nobody wants to live in the burbs with you guys. It's dangerous. People love living with us. Like, you guys have never created an environment in which you guys could ever be a big population. They lie to you. You've always been small. The just thing is, the people who've taken over, they know how to control the message. But the thing is, now we got the internet, and everybody can kind of see around and start putting two and two together. We realize you guys have been lying this whole time. It's got to be insanely frustrating for you guys to figure out that you guys have never been a massive population. You've been a really small, effective population, a negatively effective population, but you've always been small. And that's your downfall. And then your genetic code is not all that strong anyway. So it's like, you guys, this is not what you guys should be doing, right? You guys are doing everything anti-pro-recreation right now, and including the relationship y'all have with each other, as far as the white man and the white woman. They don't even want y'all no more, right? So what y'all gonna do? Everything you're doing right now is speeding up what you guys believe is gonna happen, right? And yeah, but you guys have never been a massive population. But anyway, let's let this man explain it to you a little further, because, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you guys got to debunk in your own communities, because these lies are making y'all look real silly right now. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment sections. Afro Think Tank, learn something, teach something. I'm out.
James Baldwin once wrote, "The world is not white, never was white, could not be white. White is a metaphor for power, and that is simply a way of describing Chase Manhattan Bank." When I first read those words some 13 years ago, I had no sense of what Baldwin was talking about. And it only took me 13 years and 6 college degrees to finally come to a general understanding of what he means when he says that whiteness is a metaphor for power. Over the last 13 years, I've been all over the country teaching courses, speaking at workshops, and talking at conferences, trying to help people understand the nature of race and the idea or the ideology of whiteness. I have worked diligently in that time period to change my language around how I speak about race and racialized peoples, including myself, someone who has been made to be white. That is what I say to people when they ask me what my race is. I tell them that I was made to be white in this machinery of Western empire. What this means is that before 15th century Europe, my ancestors would have had no conception of themselves as white. As a species, we have always organized, categorized, and stratified or made hierarchies out of human capacity. It's important to note that human capacity exists on a spectrum, and how we have organized or made sense of that spectrum of human capacity has changed over time. For instance, while we now consider the Greeks to be white, and I'll explain why that is in just a second, the Greeks would have never thought of themselves as white people, at least not in the conception that we have today. The use of skin color to signify the potential for human capacity would have made no sense to them. As historian Nell Irvin Painter has shown in her book Inventing White People, however, the Greeks did organize human capacity, but they organized it around geographic location and climate. The Greeks believed that those who lived in more temperate climates, surprise, surprise, like those in the Mediterranean, were far superior, had greater control over their emotions, and had a greater capacity for human governance. Those who lived in either too cold or too hot of climates had a diminished capacity for these attributes. Well, why do we now consider the Greeks to be white? And why do we consider their contributions part of the white Western canon? Well, as historian George Moza has shown in his book on race, whiteness is a scavenger ideology, meaning it adopts anything that it finds valuable to creating a cohesive narrative about the supremacy of whiteness. So, once the idea of democracy became popular after the French Revolution, we then had to tie that rise of democracy and liberal frameworks of existence and politics to a white history. So, we searched and we found the Greeks, and we fit them within the canon of whiteness. You've seen this again and again in ways that don't make sense, but you didn't know how to question it or how to articulate what didn't exactly make sense. For example, the fact that we have often treated the Egyptians at times as though they are white because of their contributions of the pyramids. Whiteness is an ideology that claims superiority over any cultural product that emerges that the West finds valuable. So when the contribution of the pyramids becomes recognizably as one of the wonders of the world, whiteness has to latch on to that creation and take responsibility for it in some fashion. That is the scavenger nature of the ideology itself. It has no roots. It only takes what it wants from culture and discards the rest. And that is why colonization and imperialism are constantly working to rename things. I'm thinking particularly about the recent trend of making dot cakes um, as a manifestation of white culture, even though we know it's also been cortadillo in other cultures, right? Whiteness takes what it wants from cultures, turns it into a product of the West or whiteness, right? Because those things eventually become synonymous, and then pump that out to the rest of the world as though it is the manifestation of white Western superiority. The scavenger ideology of whiteness becomes attached to skin color, right? Because skin color is unmistakable, indelible, and it is the first thing we tend to notice about people. But the only thing you can really tell about a human based on skin color, hair texture, and eye color from a naturalistic sense, from a biological sense, is their relationship to the sun, right? How well they handle UV rays, how much protection their melanin provides them against things like skin color. The darker you are, the closer you evolved or your ancestry evolved to the equator, right? Skin color, hair texture, and eye color were all evolutionarily advantageous traits that helped to protect people from the sun, or in the case of those that are now considered to be white, provide more absorption of the sun's benefits, like vitamin D, for example. But it is through a system of laws, policies, and cultural production that we have associated human capacity for things like governance, the capacity for criminality, to these banal, seemingly banal features like skin color, hair texture, and eye color. The most clear cut example of the fluid nature of race in the United States context comes from the 19th century and the migration of both Irish and Italian immigrants. When the Irish and the Italians were immigrating here in mass in the 19th century, and there was extreme competition in the labor market between Irish and Italian Catholics and the dominant white Anglo Saxon Protestant culture in the United States, Italians and Irish were not considered to be white. However, after the two world wars, the authority of Western Europe came into question. Colonies around the world began to realize that this preaching of superiority of Western culture was nothing more than a farce. That we have gone to war twice now, the entire world, for these European conquests. And so the United States, in an interest of consolidating power within its own context, began to allow Irish and Italian immigrants to fold into whiteness as this amalgamatory category of power. The social contract was that so long as Italian immigrants and Irish immigrants dropped the more salient or more indelible features of their cultural heritage and adopted a American white Anglo-Saxon Protestant sensibility, that they would then be able to be folded into the sort of category of whiteness. They also did this by signaling to the dominant class in the United States that they were willing to fold themselves into the category of whiteness. The Irish, for example, as Noel Ignative has shown in How the Irish Became White, did so through denying access to Irish labor unions to Black workers. This signaled to the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant dominant class that the Irish were willing in some way to challenge Blackness as a signal to the dominant class that they were ready to fold into the category of whiteness. I say all this to say that the invention of race, the invention of whiteness, was created to divide people, because a divided people is a weaker people. With the dividing mechanism of race, that dramatically reduces collective bargaining power, organizing power, and has eliminated the potential for many working class victories over the last 2 centuries. And until we come to terms with the fact that race is a socially constructed modern phenomenon used as a tool to split the working class in half, we will never be able to move forward as a society.
Every accusation is a confession. I will not elaborate.
Yep, time to go. That motherfucker coming over here. Woo, shit. Hey, Carlo, bitch, look behind you. Woo, shit, motherfucker.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.